Good morning, stampers. Welcome to Kelly's Creative Stamping. Today we start part 2 of our sweet journal using the Petal Promenade suite. Now remember, this is one of our suites that is retiring, and if you need to know what the retiring list is, you can send me an email and I will be glad to send you the PDF of the retiring list. Keep in mind, on the retiring list, there are some things that are on the retiring list that we aren't really losing. They're going to be brought back in the new cling mount stamps. So don't panic when you see the long list. We are losing some favorites, but then again, we are keeping some really cool favorites that are carrying over both from the All Occasions catalog, like Fable Friends, which you know is one of my favorites. But we have a whole new line of papers coming out, and we have a new thing coming out May 1st, and that is going to be our May Sweet Journal. So let's stick with today. Today we are going to do the cover. We are going to talk about the whole reinforcers and do one of the pages. So let's start with our cover. This is the paper that I've chosen to do my cover in. Keep in mind, there are a wide variety of patterns in here. You can choose to do them in whichever patterns you want. I have chosen to leave the marble papers for the spine pieces, which is the other thing we're going to do today. And we're going to use the cardstock colors for the reinforcers. And then there are the cutouts within the collection that we're going to use for embellishing the pages later on. So let's start with our cover. Our cover is going to measure, remember, we're measuring from here out, and I've gone a 1/2 inch off on either side to allow for folding over into the center. So we are going to do, the cover is going to be 7 1/4 by 9 3/4. Now if your pattern has an you choose has an orientation, keep that in mind. Mine is pretty well set. It's an all over pattern. So I'm going to go with just flipping it in here, 7 1/4 by 9 3/4. So I'm going to cut the 9 3/4 first. So there's that one, and we'll save the pieces that we cut off for embellishing pages later. 9 3/4. And then we need 7 1/4. And 7 1/4. Now I am working with, one of the things that I didn't take into consideration when I set the supply list, you will need 2 packets of the designer series paper unless you're going to do a different cover front and back. Well, I'm doing the same one, so I did need to do, well, because I want to reserve, this is the reverse of this, and I want to reserve these for pages on the inside. If you're not concerned about doing pages on the inside with the reverse side, then you're fine with 1 pack. And I'm going to butt this up right up against the edge of that black. Another thing on the retired list, we are losing the craft, the all craft binders. So if you're wanting to use the all craft, you need to snag those because they are while supplies last. This one we are going to keep. And keep in mind, if you're doing, if you're using the craft, you still want to kind of stick with the same measurement because it will make it easier on the plate if you're not going over this back spine. And we may do one of those. I should have done one of those, I guess. But so we're going to do this. And what I want to do is I want to line that up. But then so I ensure that I get a good crease, what I'm going to do is I'm going to score my paper. Let's see, if we're going that away, I need to score it at a 1/2 inch. On either end. And this will just help it fold over the edge of the edge of your binder a little easier. You could just fold it over, but having that crease there will help. so that when we go to manipulate this, we can line that up there and it'll help. See, as I crease that down, it creases a lot easier. And we'll do this here and just kind of give that a crease there. Now, if you're off a smidge here, it's not going to be a problem because we're going to go back and cover this seam with the sheer Petal Pink ribbon later. So if you're off, it's okay. Then I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive. And I really don't use this side too much, but this is going to help me get a good coverage right along that edge. And I'm just going to run it in strips so I get a good crease all along the front. Now, if you don't want to use the liquid glue, you could go around the edges with the tear and tape, and that's fine too. But you want to make sure you get on that edge good, so when you roll that over, the glue kind of goes with you and gives you a good edge on that glue. Gives you a good adhesion there. And then I'm going to go right along there. And then just butt that up against. Try not to go over your seam there. And I'm trying to keep my head out of the camera, but I have trying to see what I'm doing. I have vision issues, so we're just going to take, and if you want to use your ruler or a bone folder and just kind of give that a squish, that will help smooth that glue out. And then you'll see here. Now, we've got these corners here. And some people will cut these off. I like to just fold them in because then I don't wind up with. And then I probably should have brought my bone folder over here with me, but I just want to take and squish that down. And I'm going to use this glue here. Put a dot there. Let's worry about the corners first before we go anywhere else. There we go. Probably got a whole bunch now there that I don't need. But when I squish that down, and then I'm going to take, let me grab my bone folder. I think I will like it easier. Now, if you don't have a bone folder, a butter knife will work, but you want to crease that in so that it sits tight up against there. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing into this other corner. Put a dot of glue there to hold that in place. Fold this up. And when you can feel it come up against that corner, that's where you want to put your mush that down into. And it'll work off that corner just a little bit, but you'll have that fold there that you're working with. And just hold that in place for a minute and let that sit. Okay. Then remember, we got that score line, so it's going to help that roll over. Excuse me. And then we will. Now, instead of putting the glue here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bead of glue in this crease first. Again, that will give me good adhesion when I roll it over, and then I'm going to roll one across there. And then just kind of squish that down and hold it in place. Now, if you get a little bit of glue over here, that's fine, because we're going to come back and cover this up with an inside piece anyway. We're going to line this, so that's okay. Don't worry. Again, down in this crease. And then come back and do a squiggle across here. I'm doing this way much earlier in the morning than I would be doing a video because I am leaving today for a riding retreat. And I'm not going to be home on Saturday. And I wanted to make sure that this video went up on time as promised. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with what I'm doing. And you can make this strip wider if you want. That's fine. If you want to come around an inch or 3/4 of an inch instead of the 1/2 inch, that That would have been fine. And see, as I squish this down, it's bringing some of the glue out and it's bringing it out to that edge and letting that edge seal. Okay. And then we're going to go back, grab a baby wipe. If you're using this glue, you will have glue on your fingers. That's a guarantee. At least I always do. Maybe it's just the child in me and I'm a little messier than some people, but you will get glue eventually. Okay, so let's go ahead and score this other half. Remember, we scored that at the 1/2 inch on the ends and on the one alongside, so it comes over the side, just like that. Another thing we are doing is we are discontinuing our paper trimmer, which breaks my heart, but as I know with Stampin' Up, they always come up with a better solution. If we have to replace something, it's always for the better. The blades and score blades are already sold out. So remember, I'm going to run this bead of glue right up along here. I guess I did use the other end for that one, didn't I? Let's go back here. Okay, this will work better. I don't use this side much, so I tend to forget that it's there. I traditionally use the... Uh-oh. There we go. Most of the time I use the fine point. But when you're covering large areas, this is really the best end to use. Okay, and I'll just... Now when you lay this down, make sure your folded edge is to the right end. You want the non-scored edge up against your seam there. Turn this around, and I'm using the ruler instead of the bone folder because it covers more area. Give that a quick shove. And then we'll flip it over and repeat the process with our corners and our side, and this won't take but just a minute to do this, and then we'll move on to our inside cover. I think after I squeeze it down to the other side, now, if you just hold that there and you let your bone folder do the work for you, that is going to squeeze off of there, and you're just going to reposition it. It's not a problem. Go, and then we'll do the same thing on this corner. Try not to lose my papers off of here. But that helps give you that good tight crease in that corner. And you're just going to hold that down for a minute and let that glue take effect. And then come back. Run your bead of glue here. Whoa, that's going to come off. That's really going to seal. I've had a glimpse, and if you want to see what we're going to be working with in May, that video is on the blog. I posted it yesterday. Actually, well, you're seeing this on Saturday. I posted the video to the blog for the new collection that's coming out. And a new way of purchasing items is on the Wednesday post, which would have been the 17th. And it's called Everything Rosy, and it's a complete purchase. I think, from what I can see, everything we'll need for the May journal is in that kit, all inclusive. Unless you want to use other colors of cardstock or scraps from your stash. But we will do a small journal with that one. So I'm looking forward to bringing that one to you. Now the only thing is I can't purchase, I don't get to pre-order this one as a dem. They're trying something new. And we get to order ours when you do. So May 1st, I'm going in and ordering that and get it in here so I can get samples done. That one still needs pushed down a little bit in that corner. There we go. Okay, so that's our cover. I love that against that black spine. That is so pretty. Now our inside cover is going to measure 8 1/4 by 6 1/2. And you can go through and use whatever ones you want. I'm going to use the reverse of that. So I need to cut both of my pieces 8 1/4 by 6 1/2. 8 1/4. Get my score blade out of the way. 8 1/4 by 6 1/2. Now, if you have a trimmer other than the Stampin' Up! Trimmer that you like, I would love to hear what you use. Because once my blades run out on this Stampin' Trimmer, I'm going to be in the market for a new trimmer. So if you have one that you like, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a review of what you use, even ones that you've gotten that you didn't like and why, so that I'll know which ones to stay away from. Okay, so there's my inside, front and back covers. And these will go on really quick, and I'm going to do the back side first. I may have to grab a new glue before we get too much farther into this. And again, when we put this in, we're going to butt right up against the black fabric spine cover, just like this. And I'm running it right up close to where we folded that over. Remember, when we put the piece down and we squeegee it into place, it's going to spread that glue. So I think we'll be fine. Yep, I'm going to need new glue before we go any farther. So let's get this one glued into place, and see, I'm just going to go right up against there. And then glue that seeps out, I'm just going to run my finger down there. Smooth it out. Take my ruler, press that into place, and come back with my baby wipe and wipe any ooze off. You don't want to wipe too much of that ooze off, because that's what's going to help guarantee your seal. And I guess I could have done that one just a little bit wider. Let's see if I've got enough room here to do this before I have to get new glue. It's going to be touch and go. But the good news is once we get this cover into place, I don't think I'll need the glue anymore for this video. So that'll help. Yeah, we're gonna be pushing it. So I'm just gonna get out of here what I can and scribbles. There we go. Because it's talking to me. It's saying I've had enough. Okay, and then I'm gonna squeeze this one in just a little bit. Okay, and we'll come back with our ruler. And the reason I use the ruler, remember, is the bone folder, is because it will go all the way across. See, the bone folder doesn't carry as much area in one swipe. I'd have to go back and forth. The ruler lets me do that all in one pass. So there we go. We have a front and back cover, inside and out. So that's our cover. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the spine. Now the spines are important because if we put an envelope pocket in here, which we'll be doing in week 3, we'll be doing next week, you don't want anything that's going to be in the way of your, let's see, I got this backwards. You don't want anything that's going to be in the way if you want to put something in the pocket, you don't want holes there for things to come out of or to hang up in. So what we're going to do is we're going to make spines And I'm going to show you here on my sample page. This is our page, one of our pages, our page dimensions anyway. And when we do the pages, we want to make sure that we have something on there. And this is where you can see there's about a 1/2 inch gap there. This is where our holes are going to go, so that we're not punching holes in our pocket directly, because you don't want anything interfering with what you put in the pocket. So we're going to make spines. And I've chosen to go all uniform on the spines. I got this idea from Wendy and Leo. I will put her link down below. I was trying to figure out how to do an album that we didn't have to stitch, and I saw her ring bound album, and I thought, that's perfect. I can use the same concept and use our ring bound pocket page binders. So that worked. So I've chosen to use, since I'm not using this darker color so much in this journal, I chose to use the back side, so all my spines will be of this marble. And they are 8 inches by 2.5, and then we're scoring at the 1 1/4, and then we're dovetailing. We'll go in 1/4 inch in from the end and cut from there out. So I measured down 1/4 inch. See if I've got one here that's not cut. This one was a little short, so I measured in. Everything's a tad on the sticky side. I measured in 1/4 inch from that end, right there. And I flipped it over and did the same thing, went in 1/4 inch. And then I folded it on that score line. This one's a little hard to see. The mark is right here. I just went to that mark. See, make sure I'm going the right direction. Yeah. Start at that mark and go out to the tip. Flip it over, go to that mark, and go out to the tip. And that will give you your spine. What that allows you to do is, by dovetailing it like that, you've got a smooth rotation here. You aren't going to have your corners hanging up on one another. So we've got this, and as I said, these are cut 8 inches by 2.5, and then scored at the 1 1/4. So let's just cut what we can get from one page here. And you can go back and do these as many as you think you need for pages. I know we're going to have, I'm pretty sure I counted that we've got 12 pages going in here. So I'll want 12 spines. So there's 8 inches by 2.5. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, because it doesn't matter the orientation of these for the spine, I can take this piece we cut off, cut it at the 8 inch mark, and that will give me those. So out of that one page, out of a 12 by 12, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spines. And then we're going to score them at the 1 1/4. And we'll put this in, when we put this in place on the page we're making today, you'll see how this goes together. I know one thing that I do need in a trimmer is I do really like the access of having the score blade on the trimmer. For the longest time, I just used my bone folder or a large paper clip down the cutting track as my score place. Okay, so we're done with the trimmer. And we've scored these at the 1 1/4, and we're going to fold them in. Okay, apparently my trimmer's just a hair off, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. Okay, then we're going to come in and measure at the 1/4 inch mark. Now if you want to leave these flush, you can. If you want to use a corner rounder on them, you can, and just round these corners off. And then we're going to go from that mark out to our point. I should have went this one on the other side. There. And I won't do that with all of them, but you'll get the idea. I'll just use this one for what we're going to do today. Okay, next we have, so remember, you're going to need one of these for every page that we have. Now, I'm using page reinforcers because we don't sell eyelets. So I've decided to make our own page reinforcers. And you're going to cut from your cardstock, you're going to cut a strip that is, let's see, let me switch to my next note page. There we go. Reinforcer strips, 3/4 of an inch wide. And then what I did was I went through and I marked a little tick mark every 3/4 inch. 1, 2, 3/4 inch. 1, 2, 3/4 inch. And what this does is it gives you enough space to go through, and on our tick mark we'll punch our holes using the standard 1/4 inch punch. Let's see, where did I leave off here? At the 5 1/4. 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I could give you the measurements for these, but it really doesn't. It's just as easy to just do that. Okay. Now, where we've made those tick marks, you're going to want to try and stay into the center of the, you're not necessarily going to punch on your tick mark, but you're just using it as a reference, and try and punch your hole in the center of your strip as close as you can. Because you want to make sure that with your 1/2 inch punch, you've got room to come back in, center that hole, and punch your hole reinforcer. So let's do this whole strip here really quick. This won't take but a minute. Because we'll use our hole reinforcer. We'll use 4 of them today with our page. And you can use these, you can punch these from any of the colors of cardstock that you want to use. I'm using the Petal Promenade cardstock pack, which has the, I want to say Sage Shadow, but it's not Sage Shadow. The Petal Pink, the Very Vanilla, and whatever the green one was. I'll look. And then we're going to go through, center that 1/4 inch punch, or center the 1/2 inch punch over that 1/4 inch hole. This is easier than punching the 1/4 inch hole first and then trying to go back and hold on to it and punch your little circle in the center. This actually works faster because you've got something here to hold on to. And you don't have to use all the same color of hole reinforcers if you want to use colors from all 3 of the color pads. Or if you've got cardstock in your stash, you want to use a totally different color, that's fine. I've got some here that I've already punched out in the green. Mossy Meadow. That's it. I knew it would come to me. Okay, so now we have our hole reinforcers. And our peach and our Petal Pink. We'll leave those there. Get rid of our strips. Now I save the hole punch outs because this summer my granddaughters and I are going to make handmade paper. And these little color dots will go perfect in the handmade paper. So I will put those in a container. So if you want to spend time this week punching out all your hole reinforcers, that's fine. Now I also, what did I do with my master? There it is. I've also marked on our master where our holes need to go, and they come in at the 2" from the end, and if you want to just reverse back, they come in at the 6 1/4. And then we're going to fold that, excuse me, and using our 1/4 inch, oh, and I came in a 1/4 inch from the spine, half inch from the spine. And that will go right there. And this will be the jig that we will use all of our page reinforcers for. It's where we will mark all of our holes on. So then, and if you want to do them from the back, that's fine, but with this dark, I'll never see it, so I'm going to go ahead and just mark it on the front. Line my jig up, and then make my mark with my circle, my pencil. And I would do this on all of my holes, or all of my spine pieces, so that they are ready to go. And then we'll use, I lied, we'll use our glue one more time. I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 4 of these. And we're just going to take and run a little bit of glue. Now, if you have the 2" Xyron sticker machine, this would be perfect for this. You could run this through the sticker machine. Let me grab another glue. That one is just gonna fight me. Also, one thing I have discovered, I'm one for trying to get the last little bit of glue out of these things. And I took and turned one upside down. Oh, there we go. We get a little bit out. I turned one upside down into an empty bottle the other day in an attempt to get every last little drop out. And it's set tipped upside down for 3 days. And I didn't get another drop out of there. So when this glue bottle says it's empty, it's empty. There's no waste left in behind the back. You know how sometimes you get like a toothpaste tube or something and you just know there's toothpaste in there you're going to wind up throwing away because it won't come out? Well, these empty out all the way to the bottom. So you're good to go. Okay. And now we have our hole reinforcers. And by putting our holes in here before we do our pages helps give us a marking point when we put our pages together. Okay, so we have our cover. We have our cover. We have our spines, at least a few of them, and our hole reinforcers. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do one page this week, and you will need a 12 by 12, but it's going to be a flip out page. So we need to pick out one page that is going to be 8 inches by 12 inches because it's going to be the same width here, but we need to make sure that we have room to flip it over. This one's a little short because all it was an 8.5 by 11. I hadn't cut my 12 yet. So we're going to go over here and in our collection here, let's find a page. The papers in this are so pretty. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. And the cool thing about double-sided papers is it doesn't matter what you go. Now I think I'm going to do this as my inside, so when I flip it, I've got this. So we need to cut this. And the thing to remember when doing this is, again, if you have a directional pattern, see, this is my 12 by 12, and this is going to be my side that I flip. So I'm going to turn it this way and cut it on the 8 inch. Let's get our score out of the way. And cut that piece off. Then we're going to flip it back around to that 12 mark. And I want to score at the 6.5 because that's how wide our page is. So we'll go back here and score at the 6.5. And then we'll fold it in on that score line. Use our bone folder, give us a good sharp crease. And then here's our, so this is where this comes in at. We could punch holes here, but if you do this, you've got a little bit extra room to play, and you're going to come in, so my pencil is, about 1/4 of an inch from your hole. And don't worry about the wings here. We'll come back in and we'll trim those off. So let's go ahead and run a bead of glue. Now I have tried to stay in frame today. I have the new Archon camera stand coming in. It's not due to arrive until probably sometime next week. So hopefully I'll have it in time for part 3 and I can do the live that I wanted to do. So I know I want to run in, so I'm going to go ahead and just run right along the edge. Lay this page in place. And I'm roughly 1/4 of an inch from the hole to the edge of my paper. Run another bead of glue and come in with this one. I guess I want to run it on this side. Guess that's where I want to run it. Fold that in, squish it down, give it a minute to take. Wipe off the goobers a little bit. And then we'll come back with our scissors and we can trim that down so it's a nice smooth transition there. And we'll, and there we have our first page, and it's a flip. Now, the pages are going to look a little bare this week and next, but we'll come back in and we will do embellishments on part 4 and show you some ways to add extras to your pages. Okay, let's do one more, and this one's just going to be a simple one. Pick out whatever pattern you want to use for an alternate page, and I think I've got these pulled for, I got a sheet of these pulled for the embellishments, so I'm going to use a sheet of this. And remember, our standard pages are 8 by 6.5. Okay. Let me find my yellow piece that I had here. Standard just doing a single page is 6.5 by 8. Yeah. So we're going to cut this one at 6.5. By 8. Listening to the rain this morning. I'm supposed to leave this afternoon for my trip to Springfield, and I'm just kind of hanging out and letting the storms get through the rain. I hate to drive in the rain. And then we need another one of our spines. And where did my template go? There it is. Remember, we're going to come in here and line this up. Use our holes. And I can I'm just going to, I'm not measuring this, I'm just going to kind of guesstimate it where that 1/4 inch would be. You can tell my trimmer seems to be just a hair off in one direction. But I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, yeah, I'm going from this point, about 1/4 inch, over to the point. Whoa, that one really come off on that side. And that's my trimmer. Maybe there's a good reason they're getting rid of it. And we'll cut off there. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this one up a little bit so it looks a little neater on the inside. Although I don't think you could really be able to tell. And then we've got our holes. And a hole punch here somewhere. There it is. Punch our holes. I'm looking forward to the girls being here this summer. I've been pulling flowers from my yard, and I'm drying flowers, so we have flowers to add. This one, I think I've got some of those green ones. I had a whole pile of them here somewhere. As you can tell from my sample, I had a whole pile of them here somewhere. I guess we'll use peach. 2, 3. Keeping a baby hat wipe handy for the extra glue on your fingers is a really good idea. But I do know I want to use some of that mossy metal for some of my page protectors, so page reinforcers, so I'm going to have to go back and find those or cut more or something. But we'll go ahead and get those in here. And you can see, just trying to hold on to this while you run a bead of glue around there is tricky. So can you imagine trying to cut your 1/2 inch circle and then go back and punch out your 1/4 inch? Would be quite fun. Go the easier route. Cut the little hole first, then go back and measure with your 1/2 inch. If you are enjoying journals, I've been playing, my sister and I both have been playing in a group by Dear Julie here on YouTube. And we've been having a blast. Every month she has a different challenge to make a junk journal. She offers many challenges to add components to our journal. And I'll link my February and March videos down below. Got this one hanging up because I've got sticky on my paper. I probably should have had a craft mat down instead of my... But when I get my new Archon in, trying to keep you in frame will not be a problem because it's going to have a spot here for my iPad so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to have a little bit wider scope to play with. Okay, journal. There's our flip. And then here's this page, just a standard page. And you can cut these from any kind of paper you want to use if you've got some decorative paper. And then over here we've got this. What we'll probably wind up doing is leaving these here. And when we decorate this page, I'll run some kind of a border down this one to cover this 1/2 sheet. And make a tuck spot on that one. In fact, while we're here, let's go ahead and do that. We can do that with one of our spines. One of our spines is perfect, and since it's scored, I'm just going to go ahead and cut along the score line. Like that. And to do a tuck spot, we don't want to cover up the whole thing. I'm going to take this out of the binder so I don't get glue everywhere. What we want to do is we want to leave an opening so that we can slide stuff in. So we're just going to run glue, excuse me, on the end, down the side, and then we'll leave this one open. And we'll lay that right along that edge. Sorry if my head's in the way. I'm blind as a bat, I think. And we'll just hold that for a minute. Now this is another good place where you could use the tear and tape, and it would probably hold really well. My first instinct was just to grab my glue. I find a short piece here I can. So then we've got this that we can make a tag, and it'll tuck right into there. So there you go. You got a bonus page today, as I was thinking on the fly. So, recapping for this week. We've done our cover, except for running our ribbon down. We will do that next. We will do that on week 4 when we do embellishments. We have done our inside and outside. We've made a flip page. We've designed our spines and our hole reinforcers. We've done a single page. I see I lined that up really well. I'll have to trim that off. And a tuck spot for over here. So that's ours for this week. Next week we're going to add 3 more pages, styles. And then week 4 we will do embellishments. And I'm hoping to do part 3 live, but not offering any guarantees. I may have to play with a live, and if it doesn't work, then go back and record it and hang it up. But that's our plan for next week. So I hope you'll come back for part 3. In the meantime, go ahead and get all your spines cut. I'm going to say do at least 10, and the number of hole reinforcers you would need for how many ever spines you punch. So if you're going to do 10 spines, you're going to want to punch out 40 hole reinforcers, and just put them in a little container and work with them. And that's something you can use to any journal or any kind of a scrapbook page if you don't have brads to reinforce your holes, because you're going to want reinforcement for something that's going to be working back and forth quite a bit. So, and as this gets full, this will bit easier because they won't have as far up to come. So, or you can, so that's it for this week. I hope you like how the sweet, sweet Promenade journal is coming together, and I look forward to seeing you here next week. Thanks for joining me today. Remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you like this project and want to see more journals, click the like button, and so you don't miss any of the uploads, ring the little bell. And I will see you next Saturday. Have a great week. Creative blessings.